Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to a Monday evening session of the Matura Express for English. My name is Karina, and tonight is trial exam time. Anyway, so as I said, blue flowers on a shirt with a blue background look really nice. Anyway,
can you see them? Oh, you can see
they're
them.
different, kind of.
That's funny.
Anyway, so as I already said, tonight it's trial exam time. Our topic will be health and nutrition. It's mainly about nutrition and how to lead a healthy lifestyle in terms of food. But there will also be some sports included and also some statistics, so as for you to have a broad spectrum of topics covered. We're gonna go right into the thing. I'll show you question paper number 1. That is the one that focuses more on nutrition. You have a situation, in this case, you are an expert situation. You're quite sporty and you know a lot about how to lead a healthy lifestyle. You also are very interested, so she in that case, so she is also very interested in nutritional sciences. I think Ernährungslehre is what it's called in German. And she wants to do some additional training besides her job because she thinks that this is something that could be interesting. She needed a topic for English class anyway and has decided to enlighten her classmates in terms of healthy nutrition and healthy food. 4 bullet points, healthy living in general. What does it mean for you? You can also, or she can also in this case, add some or a couple of personal remarks like what is healthy, what does she think is healthy? Are there any dietary trends, dietary habits that some people have that she, from her expert point of view, does not consider very useful? And so on and so forth, be it diets or all those new superfood, smoothie trends, whatever. If you have such an open question in your own exams, you can pretty much do whatever you like. You can give a very personal definition of how you are trying to live healthy, if you do. And if you don't, pretend to do so for the exam at least, if that's your topic. What dietary or bad dietary habits do people have? I think many of us still think that drinking Coke and other fizzy drinks is, well, okay. Not really thinking about all the sugar all the sugar intake. That would be something that could go into this bullet point, for example. The statistics on page 2, there is a picture of countries that do struggle with obesity. Obesity is the illness, so like overweight is a condition that is, well, we know what that is. Obesity is nowadays considered as an illness, so obese people would, like in many countries, they can undergo medical treatment. So we are talking about obesity rates here, so people who are severely overweight, like overweight to such an extent that it is bad for their health. And Timna will then tell us which countries are affected, maybe also make some educated guesses as to why that is. If you have statistics like that, it would be very advisable to find 1 or 2 points that you personally think are quite surprising. I think the United States of America ain't that much of a surprise, but I find Australia and New Zealand quite surprising. The Emirates maybe, but then I don't know much about the Emirates and about their food trends, but find something that surprises you in any case, because that gives you something to talk about. And the role of fast food in the whole thing. You know the rest of the procedure. There's a text of which there's the link. It is a text about healthy eating and what is considered healthy and why some things that we consider healthy maybe ain't that healthy at the end of the day. Yeah. There will be a follow-up discussion afterwards where we talk about all the aspects of nutrition that did not get covered in the exam. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm just quickly going to post the link to.
Oh
the
yeah, she's
text
actually going
into
to post the link. That's
live chat. So here you go. I hope that's clickable. I think it should work. And
by the way,
yes.
No, for them out there. The picture is available on the internet. It's one of those platforms where you can freely view pictures and also use them. It is a platform that offers a certain amount of photos and pictures available for everyone. Grand. Just so that you know that we didn't, steal any pictures or anything. Anyway.
Good to know.
I would never dare and commit the crime here before a live audience.
Why am I so huge? Nobody knows, but
well, anyway, because it's your exam and you're in the focus, and I obviously was too much in the sun today anyway, so it's quite good that I'm not that big. Anyway, are you ready?
I am, yes.
So you're here tonight to do your oral exams in English?
Yes, I am.
Would you quickly tell me and the rest of the exam board who you are and what you're doing in normal life?
Of course. So, my name is Timna and I actually work at a shoe shop. So I sell shoes and that's something I really like because obviously I love shoes. And right now I'd like to do the Matura because, I don't know, maybe one day I could move on to, have my own shop, and for that I think maybe I need some business classes or some kind of degree, and that's why I thought it would be a good idea to have the Matura.
It always is, I would say.
Yes.
You're interested in sports and healthy food, as a lot of people are. Mm-hmm. May I ask you what you personally say is like a healthy lifestyle? How would you define it? What would you say?
Well, I would say healthy living or healthy lifestyle means that you kind of have a balanced diet, so you eat everything in moderation, you eat quite healthily, also you exercise regularly, yes. So, I don't know, once, twice a week, just to get some kind of exercise, which is good for body and soul. And it also actually means to have a healthy kind of mind, to balance professional life and private life, to also think about that factor. And because that's something that people usually or tend not to think about that much. What we do think about a lot is our diet when we talk about healthy living. And there's actually lots of things that people do that are quite bad for their health and their diet, which people don't even really realize that they're that bad. For example, eating out a lot or eating fast food, but in general eating out, because you don't really know what goes into your food, you don't really know what's in it, how it was cooked, and it can be quite greasy often. You can eat quite a lot or maybe too much, especially, as I said, in fast food restaurants, but even in normal restaurants, if you do that a lot. People also like to drink lots of coffee, which can be bad, so that there can be a limit of too much coffee, which some people I think are way over. But also on the topic of drinks is kind of all those sugary soda drinks, for example, I don't know, Coke, Sprite, even those waters that are flavored, they're quite bad for you as well. And people don't really think about that because they're just gone so quickly. You just drink them and that's that. There's nothing that kind of makes you think, this is making me fat or this is unhealthy. It's just, just drink it. But that's actually a big factor of bad diet. And I'm sorry. When we look at the statistics that we have here on page 2, we can see that, as many people might think, the US are actually leading here. So they have, I think, 33.8% of obesity, which is quite bad and quite a lot. And I think that might be due to the fact that people have a very busy lifestyle and don't really think about cooking, and just go out to eat, go to fast food restaurants because it's quick and easy and yummy, but makes you fat oftentimes. What's interesting to me is that there's no real difference between kind of rich and poor countries, because there's very rich countries in on top, but also on the bottom, like Canada and Germany, those countries kind of are all quite wealthy, but they have very different obesity rates, which is really interesting to me. And also, I'd like to mention Germany again, because obviously it's very, very similar to Austria. And there it's really only 20% or 20.2%, which is not that much. So we're actually doing okay, or our neighbors are doing okay, which kind of, I believe, translates to Austria as well. You could say, possibly. I think I already talked a lot about fast food, but that's really something that a lot of people eat way too much, because it's easy, it's fast, as it says. And you don't even need to get out of your car. There's drive-through shops where you just stay in your car, get your burger and eat, and it takes like 10 minutes and that's it, which is easy but really, really unhealthy. So I think you really need to change our mindset about eating. And that's really all I'd like to say today. Are there any questions?
Well, of course, there always are. No, because we talked a lot about fast food, and maybe also tying up with the statistics, like we know that America is a nation that likes their fast food restaurants. That's a fact, for whatever reason. Does that mean that we should never go to McDonald's? Or?
Of course not. Of course we can go there, but not that often. I don't know, maybe like once a month or something like that. So I think it should be something that kind of is special, or maybe, I don't know, if you had a night out, you can go to McDonald's, because that's just that's just what kind of goes with that. But in general, we should really think about cooking more and eating more healthily.
You said that we are kind of similar to the Germans, which is definitely true. So I guess we rank in the statistics, kind of.
I believe so.
Did the Germans, I don't know what population Germany has, but here we are talking about 20% of people who are serious, like they don't have weight issues, but they are ill, kind of thing. Do you think it's the same in Austria, or are we more careful about?
If we look at the part of Austria where we live, there's quite a lot of people are very sporty and do a lot of exercise. So I could think that here it's not that much, it's maybe less. But then again, if we look at, I don't know, Vienna or the bigger cities, or even, I don't know, other parts of Austria, I'm not sure about that, so I can't really say a lot, but I think it's around the same percentile. Did
things change ever since you were a child? Like, did schools, for example, did they become more like health conscious? Is there something that that you noticed differences?
Not really. I think in my school time there wasn't really a lot of change. Maybe we did have a few kind of lessons where we talked about, I don't know, healthy eating or what would a healthy snack for school be, something like that, but not a lot, I think. I feel like there hasn't been a big change. How do you think about that?
Well, I'm not sure actually. There was like, when I was in school, we were kind of talking about healthy food, but nowadays there seemed to be something like healthy breaks and stuff like that. Did you have that in school?
We did, but really not a lot. So maybe it's different now again since I've left school, but I'm not sure.
Well, maybe in Austria things sometimes take a little longer.
Yeah, very true.
Do you stick to, because you obviously seem to know quite a bit about healthy food and stuff, do you stick to those guidelines that are said to be healthy, like following the food pyramid, for example, or the 5 times vegetables and fruits a day kind of thing?
I don't really stick to that quite a lot, because I feel like everybody should find out on their own what kind of I don't know what kind of amount of each food is good for them. But what I do is I don't drink any, or I really don't drink a lot of those kind of juices and soda pops, whatever you might call them, Coke and so on. I really only drink a lot of water, maybe a bit of coffee, but not that much. And so that's one thing that I think makes a big difference in my diet. I also try to not eat too many sweets. I mean, that's quite hard sometimes, but okay. And yeah, I just try to eat quite balanced, but also don't think too much about it, because then you can kind of obsess over that, and that's not good either.
That's true. That's definitely true. That was a good closing words. Your time's up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, that's the text actually. So that is what the text looks like. Gives you a couple of, there's the infamous food pyramid. If there had been time left, I would probably have asked her if she kind of knew what it says, like, or it's like at least approximately, but then there was no time for that. Anything? No, that's it. We talked about pretty much everything. Hello? There we go. We had, for a quick recap of what she did in the exam, you have, in this case, 4 bullet points, which is 1 too many really, because it's usually 3, but then I decided to make an own one out of the statistics on page 2 thing. In your real exam it will probably be included, but as I think that statistics in general give you a lot to talk about, I thought I'd make an extra point out of it. Well, she did a very good job in fulfilling the criteria, or like fulfilling the bullet points. There was everything in the bullet points that I wanted. I always say this at this stage of the analysis. If I were you, because it's a monologue, it is you talking, I would pick out the points that you like to talk about. She could also have gone into more detail with the statistics. There are some people who like statistics a lot because they give them something to hold on to. Like, you can just recite a couple of numbers and a couple of countries in this case. I very much like the aspect of rich countries versus poor countries, because that is an issue in foods actually. There was not much room here. That will probably make an own exam discussing the differences. There is people that say that especially Latin American countries, like, or Middle American countries like Mexico and so on, that they got more and more health problems, more and more health issues the more wealthy they got, because they were suddenly, all of a sudden they were able to, like, financially able to get all the fast food from the United States of America and import all the bad dietary habits that North America had, some kind of status symbol. And well, so here food is related to wealth and money, but that would definitely be something for you to look into. That definitely is like having a closer look at that aspect is not possible in the limited amount of time that we have. But it's something that for you to look into before your exams. She could. As I said, I still find the United Arab Emirates quite surprising. Probably also a money thing. I guess they imported a lot of McDonald's and Starbucks and other things as well, as they always have had the money. The comparison Germany-Austria, of course, works quite well. I think we're going along the same lines. I think that obesity is increasing in Austria as well, maybe not to such an extent than it does in Germany. But we were on kind of the same page here. And there was in the follow-up discussion, you will probably be asked questions about yourself. Here, it is important in task 2 and in the follow-up discussion, always make sure that you stick to your role. Some people tend to talk about themselves, like their real selves. She didn't do that. She was still in her I'm the shoe-selling person role, but make sure that you also are in your exam. Some people tend to switch back after the monologue, which they shouldn't. Because in that case, you were the expert still. Good. Ready for the second one?
Yeah.
I might not be able to find it though.
Oh.
Sports and recreation. It's quite hard without pictures to hold on to, like everything's the same. This time you are a member of the group that you are in. You're a member of, like, you want to do your A-levels in English and whatever other subject. But you're, again, a very sporty person, and you know a lot about healthy living, and you also exercise in your local gym, because it just simply makes it easier to then talk about your daily routine in terms of sports and so on and so forth. You want to pass on some of your knowledge, and you're now doing a presentation in class, maybe because you thought that there's some kind of wrong opinions about the gym or about sports in general around in your class, and you kind of decided to inform them a little. Again, for bullet points, I was very motivated today, obviously. Probably there would be 2 that you can subsume under 1 point, but it's easier as an overview. I think you'll only get 3. Healthy living in general, same question as before. What does it mean? What is healthy living? Some easy ways of getting more exercise in our daily lives. Not every one of us is a marathon runner, a prospective one. So it will be your task in the exam, hers in reality here, now to point out some easy ways on how we can all get exercise, stuff that fits into our working schedule and so on and so forth. That's usually the moment where then, after the monologue, the interlocutor kind of pipes in and kind of asks a couple of questions. Well, what if I don't have time for sports after work because I get home at 7, and so on and so forth. So be prepared to meet with some skepticism on your interlocutor's side, because that's a very easy way of keeping the conversation going. Suggest some fun sports that people could try out. Ties up with bullet point number 2. Even if you're not super sporty, but what could we try? Maybe suggesting some team sports that people do not necessarily think of. I don't know, if you've never played volleyball in your life, you by yourself are maybe not very likely to take it up when you're 35, but that would be something that you could suggest here. And the popularity of sports in general lends itself. Austria is I think, comparatively sporty country. Here we have statistics, again a picture. The statistics are in German because obviously hardly anyone bothers to publish statistics in English about Austria. That's just, we're not such an important country, I suppose. It's about the most important sports here in Austria, what do we do and how frequently do we do them. Also, statistics like that give you a lot to talk about, or give your interlocutor a lot of chances to ask you stuff, which I will do. So I hope you do a lot of sports. Or at least your fake identity does. What else do we have? After the bullet points, we have a discussion and a follow-up thing. Sports and health, a kind of a roundup. Same thing as always, same question as always. Are you ready?
I am.
Grand.
And I will.
So come back. You're still so
Big.
prominent.
Is that better? But then I can't.
That's not getting any better tonight.
Okay.
That's okay. So, good evening for
evening.
this quite late Matura exam.
Yes.
Would you please introduce yourself to us?
Of course. So my name is Timna and I am a secretary, and I'd actually like to change my post. So I'd like to apply for a different job also as a secretary, but at a different location. And I thought for that I would do the Matura, because that's always something that's good, or that people like to see in applications, and it's definitely more likely that they will then choose me. And in general, I think it's a good idea to do that. So that's why I'm here today.
Definitely is. I think the Matura exam nowadays looks good in whatever sort of CVs there is. So, so you're a secretary, so you have a sitting job at that. Do you have time for sports?
Well, after work, I do like to do quite a lot of sports, because, as you said, I sit quite a lot at my job, so I feel like I need some kind of exercise then to kind of get me moving a bit.
So what would you, like you mentioned sports, but what would be a healthy lifestyle for you? Or is 10 minutes of, I don't know, running enough, or what would you?
Well, I feel like a healthy lifestyle isn't just about sports, it's also about eating healthily, so having a balanced diet, eating lots of fruits and veggies, and drinking lots of water, but also exercising. Even just maintaining a good balance of work life and professional life and mental health as well. And that's, I think, all those kind of factors are part of that concept of a healthy lifestyle. And there's actually, when we're talking about exercise, there's actually lots of things that you can do that are quite easy to do during the day. So just kind of to do while you're doing other things, like taking the stairs instead of the elevator when you're going somewhere, or generally just going by foot instead of by car or bus when it's not that big of a distance, of course. Or maybe doing some little exercises while cooking, like, I don't know, jumping jacks or lunges or something like that while your pasta is cooking, which is quite easy to do and you don't have anything else to do anyway, usually. Or maybe even just get up 10 minutes earlier and, I don't know, do some kind of light exercise before taking a shower, which is really quite easy, and you just have to kind of get used to that once, and then you don't even think about it anymore. So that's something that I think lots of people should try. And if you want to go one step further and really try out kind of some fun sports, what I would suggest is, for example, Zumba or yoga or Pilates, something like that, some kind of class that you can maybe even do with friends, or even dance classes that you can do with friends, which can be a lot of fun. And that's the main thing that's really important about doing sports. Sports is it has to be fun for you, because otherwise you will hate it and you won't do it. So try just to find something that is fun for you, that works for you, and then I think you're going to see that there's quite a lot of positive change going to happen. When we talk about, or when we look at Austria in general, we can see that sports are actually very, very popular in Austria. There's quite a lot of people that do sports. There's, I think, some people that do sports a lot, but then there's also people that just, go for a hike once a month or something like that. But people usually do something. and especially outside, because we have such a beautiful nature and the mountains, and I think it kind of lends itself to doing something or exploring nature, which is basically doing exercise, like, I don't know, skiing, hiking, mountain biking, all those things, swimming even, all those things like that. So I think Austria is actually quite a sporty country. We can be quite proud of that. That's all I'd like to say today.
Very nice. In the statistics that I have here in front of me, cycling is the most popular thing, which I personally cannot understand.
Really?
I hate cycling, but that's a different story.
Have you tried cycling with an electric bike?
Never.
That's fun.
Is it?
Yeah, but it's kind of cheating, but it's fun because it's not that hard.
True. But then I guess that's,
But then you need an electric bike. So.
And most of my friends, would not do the sport with me then because,
because you're cheating.
Yeah,
but
that would be like, disqualifying
fun.
myself.
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just surprised that the bicycle is number one.
Yeah, that's true. I'm surprised by that as well. But then again, I think biking you can do everywhere. Like in Austria, I think lots of places have biking lanes, and you can bike through nature and even up the mountain if you're really good or have an electric bike. Yes, I think that's something that you can really do quite easily. And most people have a bike.
But the question is also what the people who mentioned cycling as number one consider proper biking.
They're just biking to the shops or
and
what.
I'm the greatest cycler on earth.
Okay, true.
What would have been, like, if you hadn't seen the statistics, what would have been your guess on what Austrians do most? Or what number one answer would have been? Like,
I think maybe hiking or skiing. But maybe that's just because we live in the mountains here, in this mountainous region. But there's lots of Austrians that don't have mountains to ski and hike on.
That's true.
So, I think you have to keep that in mind as well.
I guess it's always a presupposition that Australians have that, hiking and skiing is...
There's other people as well in Austria, except for terrorists.
Well, my first guess would have been probably skiing, just because it doesn't even figure. Oh, it does figure, but very low
because
down.
there's just one season for skiing.
Do you have a favorite sport of all those sports that are listed here? So we have cycling, running, hiking, Nordic walking, swimming, sports, the gym, and football.
I do quite like to ski, but then again, to me, skiing is not really a sport because I don't know. I ski more as a kind of a leisure activity. So I'm not a very sporty skier. Like I don't. Have the best, what I mean, the best turns and things. But I do quite enjoy skiing. Also, maybe swimming, even biking, Why not? If you have a comfy saddle, then it's good.
I think I'm doing something wrong in general. No, not really. Anyway, I think I'm doing something wrong. I always start like way too quick, and then it's like, after 10 minutes, like, okay, that's not going to work. The gym is mentioned as well. There's some people who say, well, being here in Austria, the gym is not worth the money because there's so many things that you can do outside. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, everybody has to do what they like, so I don't think there's any wrong type of sports. It's just if you like to go to the gym, then go to the gym. And also, hiking also is not that cheap. You need the right attire, you need parking spots even, usually where you can kind of leave your car. Skiing is very expensive, so I think there's nothing wrong with going to the gym.
So it's
you like that.
You would stick to what you said before, find something you like, and regardless of what it is, really.
Main thing, yeah, definitely.
The text says something about sports being good for self-confidence. Why, and do you agree?
I definitely agree because when you do sports, especially when you do sports quite regularly, so I don't know, 2 times, 3 times a week, you can see improvement quite quickly in your physical health and even mental health. And that, especially the physical health part, gives you self-confidence because you look better, you can do more every time, and that's something that kind of really boosts your confidence and gives you, kind of gives you a cheer on, I think.
It's true.
And you usually feel better after working out. So
That's true. That's definitely true.
After.
Yeah, especially if you go cycling. Yeah. That's you also, last question because time's almost up. You mentioned the work-life balance.
Yes.
How much of work-life balance do you get now that you have to, you have a job, you have to study, you have to get your sports done?
Well, I mean, I do have to work a lot, I do have to study a lot, but then I quite enjoy that. And as I said, when my work is over and I go to do some exercise, to me that's kind of fun. That's not really something I have to do, but that's fun. That's where I can kind of re-energize and kind of let off some steam. So I think I have a quite good work-life balance.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And now after you've passed all your exams, it will get even better, I hope.
I hope so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, my exam's gone.
Oh.
Abbrechen. Hello. As you may have noticed, there is the same that holds true for cycling holds true for computers as well. I don't really like it or them. In your, those of you who watch our trial exams on a more regular basis will know that the monologue part in theory, or on the sheet says 3 to 4 minutes. It will also be of that length in your real exam. I'm pretty sure that your interlocutor will interrupt you. We usually talk a little longer than the 4 minutes in the monologue, or I let her talk a little more than the 4 minutes, simply because I always try and point that out and repeat myself a little, that you get as many or as much new input, or maybe not new input, but a recapitulation of what you already know for your exams, or maybe some stuff to focus on. What I thought was very good this time, or not only this time, but in general in her presentations. Presentations are kind of a speech sort of thing. So even though the situation does not explicitly say so, but at the end of the day you're trying to convince your audience of something good, or you want to at least prove that you're an expert on something. And what she always does quite nicely is that she's trying to sound as if she was delivering a real speech, varying tones and pitches a little, and also trying to throw some enthusiasm into the whole thing, which is really good, but because at the end of the day it's a speech, and rhetoric devices like Stilmittel are not only part of German exams. You should also include some every now and then in your oral exams, also in English. So try and make the speech as lively and as nice as possible. You can prepare it, so I guess it's the easiest part on where to also put some thought into stylistic devices and put some thought into how you actually fulfill the situation, because it's not only fulfilling the task, but also try and include some, as I said, some motivation, some phrases that would convince your audience that sports in this case is a great thing. Yeah, I think that was it. In the text, the text says something like, it's about the very classic advantages of sports. you sleep better, you lose weight, and so on and so forth. But as I said, it also mentions the self-confidence point. If you see that in your text, and if that is something that you know something about, in the dialogue part, you could also ask your interlocutor whether or not he or she agrees. They will only give you very brief answers on that and probably throw the question back to you, kind of ping-pong style. But it should be a dialogue, it should be something interactive, so you could also maybe think about a point in the text that you want to ask your interlocutors, and then, or your interlocutor, and then hope that he or she doesn't ask you beforehand, before it's your turn actually. But if I were you, I would have a very close look at the text and find something to ask your interlocutor, because, as I said, it's a dialogue. Dialogue is characterized by interaction, people talking to each other, questions going back and forth. As I said, he or she will not go to great length with their answers, but they will at least answer. Good, I think that was all I had to say about today's exams. Try to add some points maybe that, like some knowledge that not everyone might have. Like in the food example in the previous exam, we all kind of know that fast food isn't the most healthy thing in the world. She raised the point of fizzy drinks, which is something that people probably know but don't think about that much, at least judging by what I see people drink on buses and public transport and in restaurants and so on and so forth. Also have a look at some food trends maybe, because that would also give you something to talk about. Having an opinion on, I don't know, all those like smoothies and so on and so forth. Are they really that healthy? Is it worth the money? Like, I think buying a smoothie, like a pre-made and ready-made one in the store, is quite expensive comparatively to, or compared to what money you have to spend when you do them at home. Stuff like that. In your preparation, study or try and acquire some knowledge that you could throw into a discussion, because that just simply makes it a lot easier. Not everything you need to know is in your books, whatever textbook you're using. Yeah, and that's usually, like, I think health and nutrition is something very nice to talk about. One of those exams that you're lucky when you like
usually have a lot of thoughts on your own.
That's true, and you usually do something. Like, there's hardly any person out there who doesn't do anything. Like, I've heard there are people, but then,
and even if you don't, you have kind of some kind of argument for that, maybe.
Yeah, good point. So that might be, as I said, I think it's very, like, the sports or not sports discussion very often goes along the lines of my last question, like, what if you have studying to do, if you have work to do and so on, which again gives you a point to discuss. What is more important, a good life, work-life balance, not doing anything, investing 100% into school and work. Anyway, one of the nicer topics, I would say. We will be back next week, and I wish you a good night. Thank you very much.